1348, a year of tragedy and change, delves into a pivotal year marked by profound devastation and transformative societal shifts, catalyzed by the arrival of the Black Death. This catastrophic plague swept through continents, leaving an indelible mark on the course of human history. As the year began, Europe was on the brink of monumental change, though unaware of the extent to which its societies, economies, and everyday lives would be upended. In the early months of 1348, the Black Death crept into Europe through trading ships that docked at Sicilian ports, carrying not just goods but also the Yersinia pestis bacterium. Unbeknownst to the people of the time, this bacterium would trigger a pandemic. The disease spread rapidly, facilitated by the dense urban populations and the lack of medical knowledge to combat such an invisible foe. As spring turned to summer, the disease reached the heart of Europe. Cities from Florence to Paris began to witness a horrifying mortality rate. The streets were often silent, save for the sound of church bells and the cries of mourners. In some areas, entire families were wiped out, leaving homes empty and businesses abandoned. The reaction to the plague varied significantly. Some people turned to fervent prayers and processions, hoping to appease what many believed was divine wrath. Others fled to the countryside, though this often only served to spread the infection further. Physicians of the age were powerless, their methods rudimentary and largely ineffective against such a virulent disease. Economically, the impact of the Black Death was profound. Labor shortages became commonplace due to the high death toll, leading to a series of peasant revolts and demands for higher wages. This challenged the feudal system prevalent at the time, as serfs began to realize their labor was now more valuable than ever before. Culturally, the Black Death led to a macabre fascination with death, reflected in the art and literature of the time. Works from this period often depicted the danse macabre, or dance of death, which symbolized the universality of death and its indifference to social status. Politically, the plague weakened many of the feudal states. The nobility, not immune to the disease, suffered losses that diminished their control over the peasantry. In some regions, this shift in power dynamics led to more self-governing communes and a gradual shift towards more modern forms of governance. By the end of 1348, the Black Death had radically altered the demographic landscape of Europe. Some estimates suggest that up to a third of Europe's population perished, with similar rates of death in parts of Asia and North Africa. This loss fundamentally changed population dynamics, leading to significant economic and social shifts. In response to the labor shortages, technological innovations were spurred as a means to increase productivity without reliance on extensive human labor. This necessity-driven innovation laid the groundwork for future developments during the Renaissance. The Church, which had been the cornerstone of medieval life, found its authority challenged. The inability of clergy to protect themselves or their parishioners from the plague led many to question their teachings. This loss of faith paved the way for the later Protestant Reformation. Socially, the aftermath of the plague saw changes in family structures and societal roles. With so many dead, traditional roles were often upended, with women taking on duties that had previously been reserved for men. This breakdown of traditional roles caused a slow but irreversible social change. Legally, the dramatic reductions in populations led towns and cities to enact new laws aimed at rebuilding and repopulating communities. These laws often included incentives for immigration, adjustments to inheritance laws, and changes to property rights, reshaping the legal landscape in enduring ways. The psychological impact of the Black Death lingered long after the disease itself had receded. A general sense of melancholy and fatalism pervaded Europe, influencing philosophical thought and everyday interactions. This existential reevaluation brought about a deeper contemplation of life's fragility and the afterlife, influencing both religious thought and secular life. As the decades passed, the memory of the Black Death shaped cultural and societal norms. Commemorations and monuments dedicated to the victims of the plague served as constant reminders of the tragic events of 1348, ensuring that the lessons learned would not be forgotten. 1348, a year of tragedy and change, thus not only recounts the events of a devastating year but also explores the extensive aftermath, illustrating how a tragedy of such scale can reshape civilizations in profound and lasting ways.